Well, hi, everybody. This is Dear Mama Sal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with feelings. And first of all, I'm pretty certain you all know that the topic today will be coping with our feelings about the passing of Queen Elizabeth. And it is with obvious sadness that I felt that maybe we have some memories that you'd like to share with the viewers. Maybe you have some feelings about everything that's going on, and if so, let's talk about them, because it's really important in times of grief to keep talking. And what happens to so many people is that they shut down rather than reach out. And so I encourage you to talk about it, even if you're watching on the replay. Take a moment to give your feelings in the comments below, so that we can support you and your feelings. I just wanted to say that um, DearMamaSal is a group of people who get together 3 times a week, and we have at Friday lunchtimes we talk about coping with feelings, and Friday evenings we talk about coping with life. And what I try to do is talk about coping with life on a very strict budget, because we're all feeling the pinch. And then on Sunday afternoons we talk about coping with stress. So my thanks to everybody that is involved in it. I'd like to thank, obviously, Jody, who is our admin, and also to Jeannie, who quite often backs up. And happy birthday for yesterday, Jeannie. And I apologize for not getting your birthday banner up yesterday. As you can probably imagine, I was overcome with a lot of feeling, and I just clean didn't do it. And I am so sorry. I hope you will forgive me. All right. So, but I'm pretty certain, Jeannie, you will never forget the day that Queen Elizabeth died, because it was on your birthday. And so, that's a very important one um, to link it to, if you know what I mean. It's just like I know that, I have one parent that died on Mother's Day and one that died on Valentine's Day. So I never forget those days. All right. Hi there, Gemma. Feeling empty day in the United Kingdom. We had the news on a lot over the past few days. Yes, I want to tell you, I've also, had the news on pretty extensively. And I must admit, when they announced it, although we've all been expecting it at some level, Gemma, that it's just like when it actually happened, it still was oh no. And if we feel like that, imagine how the family feels. And that's the thing I wanted to discuss. I'm going to get onto that in a second. In the meantime, I just want to make sure that we also wish Beth's husband Charles a very happy birthday on the 11th. Also another memorable day, September the 11th, 9/11. And then Erin for her surgery on the 15th. I'm presuming she's still going ahead with that, because I haven't heard otherwise. So very, very important. Jeannie's saying the Queen was a dear woman of faith and duty to her country. She cared about her family, her horses, her dogs. A great lady we shall not forget. I quite agree. Oh, I got a parcel just being delivered. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. I don't know about you, but I hate to leave my parcels outside. It's just asking for trouble. So I wanted to share our feelings, because it is so important that we do that. All right. So Jim is saying we've cancelled loads of events over here, sport, racing, etc., as we began 10 days of national mourning. Well, I want to tell you that it must feel like somebody hit you in the stomach, all right? This is like, it's a different feeling. Um, all right, Gemma, just to let you know that Jeannie, as a moderator, has, let me just see what she said. Um, I'm not quite sure why Jeannie did that, but she's timed you out for a few minutes, all right? So I'm going to read your comment anyway, which I did, right? You canceled loads of events. It's really important, Gemma, that everybody understands how important this is. And Jeannie's saying, I didn't mean to do that. So we love you, Gemma. Stay there. Don't go anywhere. But just understand it's not going to let you comment for a few minutes. So just be patient and then start. Keep trying, and I'll let you know when it comes back again. So it's like, I wonder if I can undo the deletion. Not the deletion, but the... Okay. Just be patient with us. Jeannie's saying she's so sorry. Yeah. All right. So I want to get on with some things that I thought, I'm always looking for the upside of things. And so I've tried to find hopefully some interesting facts and that you might not know, and also some fun facts about the Queen. And the first thing I wanted to say was, for all of you that are in America, in 2007, the Queen poked fun at George W. Bush, who didn't, right? When he accidentally said that she had celebrated the US bicentennial in 1776 instead of 1976. So, he's busy toasting her. So after he added 200 years to the Queen's life, he said that she gave him a look that only a mother could give. How many of you know that look? But the Queen, being the Queen, and she had a wicked sense of humor, which you didn't get to see very much of. But what happened was, a couple of days later, she was at a dinner hosted by the British ambassador, and during her toast at that dinner, she said, I wonder whether I should start this toast by saying, when I was here back in 1776. How many of you can imagine her doing that? And I can imagine poor George W. must have just, wanted to die 1,000 deaths. What an incredible mistake to make. But, haven't we all made them? So made him very human, I thought, right? I wondered whether any of you know why she always wore such bright colors and such big hats. Do any of you know the reason for that? There was actually a strategic reason for it. And I know when I first heard about that, it made a lot of sense to me. And the reason was that when you're in a crowd and packed, full of people, and you're trying to see the Queen, now she was pretty diminutive, right? She was 5 foot, next to nothing. What she would do is make sure that a hat added height to her, so that people maybe a few rows back in the crowds could say, "Oh, there she is with the pink hat with the feather." All right. So that was the reason she always wore quite tall hats, and also, with embellishments on it, because it was unlikely there'd be anybody else wearing that combination. And I thought that was really interesting. So almost the hat was more important to her than the outfit that matched it. Whereas normally the hat gets made to match the outfit. I think in her life, the outfits were made to match the hat that she would wear, so she would be easily spotted. But you also know that at one point of her life, she actually wore military uniform. All right. She was born at a time when the country was still at war. And how many of you know what job did she have? She did have a job in the military. And I'm certain some of you might know what job she had. But it, it was not one that I sort of, funny enough, can imagine that she actually was a mechanic in the carpool and a truck driver. Can you imagine that little thing? And she's the only member of at the time, the only female member of the royal family ever to enter the military. And I have to say that it must have been quite a shock to her when she actually did become queen, because if you think about it, she wasn't destined to be queen at all. She was married to, she was the daughter of the second in line to the throne, not the first in line. So when King Edward the seventh, abdicated to marry Wallace Simpson, Bertie, her father, ended up becoming King George the Eighth, I think. So, she wasn't expected to be next in line to the throne. So it must have been quite a shock to her. Do you know that she never went to school? Interesting. Never went to school. And she was totally homeschooled all her life. And I don't know about you, but I found that pretty interesting. I don't know why I've never seen that fact before. And you go, and her schooling was very much around becoming royalty, or which she didn't become it, she was it. But a lot of her schooling was about geography as it pertains to being a royal, in terms of the Commonwealth, and history in terms of the history of the Commonwealth. So a lot of her education was about being a royal. And, she obviously studied a lot of law in regards to that position as well. And so that must have been quite a different schooling from most children of her time. Constitutional law would have been very high up in her education. Do any of you know when she first fell in love with Prince Philip? And she did fall in love with Prince Philip. It wasn't an arranged marriage. She actually fell in love with him. She actually was besotted by him when she was a tween, if you can imagine that. And later went on, yes, she was quite Rangini. She was a tween. And, not a queen, a tween, like not quite a teenager, right? And so actually a tween is probably still a teenager. So anyway, it was, I thought, really interesting. I hadn't heard that one. I thought that she probably met him later on in her life, but apparently it was pretty early on. Some of you might have seen her at the G7 conference. And she actually, they were all socially distant because of COVID and everything, but they had to do a photo op with her. And what they did is they had everybody sitting on chairs, and she realized that everybody was very tense because she was there. Normally they're standing shoulder to shoulder and chit-chatting. You've seen them at those conferences. But because the Queen was there and because it was COVID, they were all separated out and they were all sitting on chairs, and everybody was pretty tense. And the Queen, being who she was, apparently said to them all, she sort of turned around and said to everybody, Are we supposed to look like we're enjoying ourselves? Which caused everybody to burst out laughing, and then they got the photo. Can you imagine her doing that? It's like, are we meant to be looking like we enjoying this? There you go. Oh, Gemma, I'm really sorry to hear that you're going, because I would have loved more input from you. But thank you so much for being here. And we appreciate so much the fact that you came in to give us, the sense of another Brit. I say another Brit because I was one for quite a long time of my life. I only became a Canadian about a decade ago. So, but thank you so much for being here, and let's hope some other Brits pop in and talk to us as well. I thought it interesting, because I am a Canadian, to hear that even President Trudeau, when he went to the Commonwealth heads of government meeting, and she was there as well, right? And he couldn't help but point out that he was the 12th reigning Canadian Prime Minister to meet her during her reign. And apparently she quipped back at him, "That makes me feel quite old." And so, it was just like, she had this incredibly fast wit. I've always said that the Brits' humor is very fast and very dry. And you quite often, if you're not used to it, you have to sort of do a double take and go, was she being funny? Because when you delivered it the way that the Queen always did, you're never quite sure whether she was being funny or whether she was actually being quite sarcastic. All right, so I want to go back to meeting Prince Philip. It says that, and according to an article that was written in 1957, I found out that Prince Philip met Elizabeth, his third cousin, when they were children. That's when he first met him. They shared the same great-great-grandparents, Queen Victoria and Albert. And they were, by the way, the Victoria and Albert were first cousins, right? And from the time she was 13, she was besotted with him, Philip. All right. And then, they just grew closer as they grew up. And let's be honest, that was a marriage that spanned 60 years. So quite incredible to hear that. She also, funnily enough, didn't have a university degree of any sort. And she was personally tutored in religion by the Archbishop of Canterbury. I didn't know that before. And this was an interesting thing that I found. And that was the oath that she gave. I believe it was in Cape Town. She did a broadcast from Cape Town, and said, "I declare before all of you that all my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and the service of our great imperial family, to which we all belong." And, that was like very interesting. I don't know if any of you heard King Charles III's speech today, but it was interesting to hear him pick up on that particular pledge. I also was quite surprised to find out that she used to have a nightcap every night before she went to bed. I wonder if any of you know what was her nightcap, and what do you think it might be? Now, before she went to bed, and a lot of people do that, right? Before they go to bed, they have a nightcap, and it might be hot chocolate or hot milk or whatever. What do you think the Queen's was? Let's see if you know. Give it a bit of thought. Jeannie's saying sherry. You're on the right track. It was a glass of champagne. Apparently, she had a glass of champagne every day. So, it's interesting when you think about it. There's so much of her that I hope we will end up um, hearing more of. But I could be wrong. So that every night before bed, she enjoys some bubbly. And once she said, for me, heaven is likely to be a little bit of a come down. um, what an incredible statement to make. After all that she had been wined and dined and celebrated across the world, that heaven might be a little bit of a come down for her. Now, you all know that she had hobbies, and you probably all are not surprised to hear, of course, that riding was one of them. But do you know she was still riding in her 90s? Right the way up into her 90s. And I think it was only when she got a little bit unstable that she had to, unstable, excuse the pun, horses and stables, yeah, right. It was only then that she needed to change and not ride anymore. And I thought it interesting, again, being a Canadian, that for many years between 1969 and 86, the black horse that she rode at the Trooping of the Colour, was in fact a mare called Burmese, which was given to her by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I didn't know that. It was a beautiful horse. I remember it well. What will you most remember of her reign? If you had to sort of give me a couple of moments, what is it that you most remember? And what had the biggest impact on you in terms of her life? It's a very important thing to think about that. Yes, Jeannie's saying, I was surprised that her doctor said she was not well, and then suddenly she was dead. Yeah. I woke up to her not being well, and then, as you said, moments later, she had passed. So if that was a shock to us, that the rapidity of that, how quickly it happened, can you imagine what it must have been like for Prince Charles? Where probably the first words he heard were, Your Majesty, we wish to advise you of the passing of your mother. God save the king. Wow. That must have been, I don't know about you, but just even hearing that brings tears to my eyes. So, and Charles had waited a lifetime to take over, but he'd also lived his own life of late, all right, to a very large degree. And, if you heard his speech, you could hear he was going to have to give up an awful lot of things. Yeah. All right. So Gemma's reminding us that the Queen didn't look well on Tuesday when she accepted the new Prime Minister. I want to tell you, when you think about it, Gemma, at 96 and dying, as she was at that point, the fact she got up and got dressed in a cardigan and tartan and everything else at Balmoral, the fact that she got up and did that perhaps is the biggest surprise, now that we know that she died sort of less than 48 hours later. But I don't know about you, but I can also imagine that right until the very end, she took her duty, so strongly, right? That was the one thing. She lived her life as an example of what it is to live with selflessness. In other words, that her job was more important to her than her health or her, whatever else was going on with the family. And the show must go on was, literally, and her way of doing it, right? And when you think about it, it is such an incredible thing for your new Prime Minister Truss to be able to say, and I shook her hand in those last couple of days. Can you imagine? She was probably one of the last people to do that, if not the last. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Gemma, because it really, it is sad. It was sad to see her so frail. But when you realize she died in less than 48 hours later or something, then you go, boy, wasn't that an incredible thing that she did to even greet your prime minister that way? I wonder if any of you know what the current value is of the crown jewels that are housed in the Tower of London, um, and protected by the Beefeaters. I wonder if any of you know what the value of that jewelry is. And anybody want to hazard a guess at what it might be? I was actually quite surprised. I knew it was pretty expensive. All right. Hi, Peter's Cooking Network. Good to meet you. Peter's saying, always admired her elegance, graceful presence through so many world tragedies and personal hardships. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Jeannie's suggesting that the crown jewels were worth millions. Apparently, the current value on them, Jeannie, is 4 billion with a B. I mean, they're priceless because they are the royal jewels, but billions, $4 billion. Now, who do they belong to? The British people, right? So anybody else lurking in the background there that wants to have a comment, do join in. Yeah, she was always graceful. Do you know, Peter, that she never gave a press interview in her whole life? And if you think about it, you can see that. But isn't that interesting? A king or queen, if you think about them around the world, they're nearly always been on television at some time or another having a comment. But she never gave a press interview of any sort ever during her 96 years. And she kept her politics, if you like, behind curtains, right? What she personally felt was not the public's business. It was her private business. And I wonder how many of you feel the same way. All right. That, your politics are your business and nobody else's. And the other thing is, it was, I think, quote came from the Daily Mail in England, said, the enduring appeal is that she never bared her soul in public. Even in this era of the celebrity confessional, she has remained enveloped in mystery. So the question is, I'm certain that you will all wonder about this. Will King Charles choose to be a more public communicator? In other words, will he go with the Queen's thing, which is, I will stay away from the press, or will he allow himself to be interviewed by the press? Now, I do know that the Queen allowed her life to be videotaped at 1 or 2 times, right? Yeah, Peter, I tried to find some facts that I thought maybe you might not know, because there's so many things about her that we didn't know. So I'm glad that you're enjoying that. Good. Do you know that she was the only person in the whole of the United Kingdom that was allowed to drive without a number plate or a driving license? Prince Philip had to have one. He had to have a number plate and he had to have a driving license, but the Queen didn't have to. I thought that was pretty incredible. And the other thing I found interesting was, we were talking about her clothes. Oh, she never had a passport either. Yeah, I didn't know that. I missed that one. Um, and how many of you know she always carried a bag? And the reason she carried a bag was not. I mean, she'd carry a compact and lipstick or something, and probably a tissue. I'm not a tissue. She would have had a handkerchief, a real cotton one, I'm pretty sure, or two in her bag. But she never carried money except on Sundays. She insisted on taking money to church so that she could put money in the collection plate. And that was the only day she ever carried money. And it must be difficult when you're a royal to think about that, right? It's like she never had a credit card or didn't need one, right? That sort of thing. Scary to think that she was served by 15 different UK prime ministers. 15. The first one being Churchill. Go back that far. Peter's saying, we made sure not to miss this. We knew you'd have an interesting perspective on her lifestyle. Ah, isn't that kind of you? Thank you. Well, I tried not to make it too somber because I don't think she would want that. I think she would want us to know, to honor her life rather than to, mourn deeply for her. Okay. Gemma's watching a program about the Queen. So good night to you, Gemma, and thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. 15 UK prime ministers. Can you imagine that? She ran the gamut. And, to me, it must have been so difficult when she constantly was changing governments. And, well, the longest serving prime minister would have been Maggie Thatcher, I believe. I'm pretty sure of that. And when you think about it, that is an incredibly long time that Maggie Thatcher was prime minister. And they didn't get on, I understand, right? She was, funny enough, you'd think that they would have done, but they didn't necessarily get on. And yet, I hear, or I have read that when I can see him, the Labour prime minister from way back when, short guy, always wore a raincoat. I mean, looked like Columbo. Can't think of his name right now. But anyway, he apparently they got on really well. And, he came from very humble beginnings and so forth. And apparently the Queen always was very connected with him. A lot of the prime ministers have said that she was so easy to tell the truth to because you knew she would never share what she heard, ever. She never, ever shared a confidence. I think that is also very true, Jeannie. The video that they did for the centennial. I don't know if you know about how they made that video, Jeannie. When they had Bond, supposedly take her up in an airplane so she could parachute down. But I was reading somewhere yesterday that when Daniel Craig was actually there filming that with her, she apparently was really good. She'd say, what do you think? Should I be writing something right now? Look like I'm writing something, while she's sitting opposite or at the very beginning, And he said he was absolutely amazed at her sense of drama and the fact that, she wasn't just going to sit there as the Queen. She wanted to be part, doing things during this. And I thought it was really cute. And he was very endeared with her, I believe. Daniel Craig, and the fact that she said yes to doing it and how willing she was to participate in it all. So that's, so thanks for remembering that. I think we all relate to that, little bit of video, right? And I don't know about you, but I was shocked to see that the Queen did it. Um, yeah, and I think it is amazing, that also that King Charles, mentioned the fact that she was on her way to reconnect with Prince Philip. Do you know that she actually sent an email? Somehow I don't see her being that modern, but she sent her first email back in 1976. Yes, a double rainbow over London yesterday. I actually was going to finish with that, Peters, because and I'll talk to that when I finish these notes, because that was incredible, wasn't it? And not just over London. So I'll get to that in a second. She also published her first Instagram in 2019. Now, obviously, she had staffers doing the majority of it, but the good news was um, that she did, understand the need to communicate the way the young people were communicating. It was very important for her to be seen to be doing the same. Peter, no problem at all. Don't worry about it. I also thought it was incredible. All right, so we know she had many hobbies. Now, you all know about horse riding being a hobby, but do any of you know any of her other hobbies? Because there were two there that quite surprised me. And, when you've got that much money and not a lot of time, what hobbies, would you imagine that she had other than horse riding? That was her public hobby. We all knew about that one. But there were a couple that I hadn't heard about. And I wonder if anybody else knows. One of them, she was a pigeon fancier. She loved racing pigeons. I didn't know that. Did you? And biggest surprise to me, she was a football fan. How many of you can imagine the Queen being a football fan? Yeah, dressage maybe, but football? And the question is, if you did know that, do you know which English football team she most supported? Again, absolute shock to me. So you have to imagine her sitting there sipping her champagne, watching football on the television, and she was a big Arsenal supporter. I don't know about you, but that's sort of way off left field for me. I just went, really, Queenie? You were an Arsenal supporter? Excuse me. This next one touched my soul. And I'm pretty certain that you've all got a pretty vivid imagination, but she apparently on this last, trip her last trip to Scotland, when she was up there, she actually went out and about, sort of incognito. And she met some American tourists. Now, we all know what the Brits think about American tourists, but this one really must have been something else. There were a couple of people living in the States that are really going to roll their eyes when they hear about this. So apparently, when she was out and about incognito, probably wearing her headscarf and just shopping in Windsor, or doing whatever she felt like, she would have had to have money for that. But anyway, whatever she was doing downtown, these American tourists happened to start up a conversation with her. And they said, "Do you live locally?" And she said, "Yes, actually, some of the time. I've got a house nearby." Didn't say it was Windsor Castle, but she said, "Yeah, I got a house nearby." And they said, "Have you ever seen the Queen? Have you met her?" And she said, "Actually, no." And then she pointed to her security guard standing at her shoulder and said, "But he has," and carried on walking. Can you imagine that? Have you ever met the Queen and they were standing right in front of her and didn't know it was her? Can you imagine when they found out? And can you imagine that they didn't curtsy or bow or do anything? They would, oh, okay. That would haunt you for the rest of your life. But can you imagine how, I wonder if the security man managed to keep a straight face. Yeah. Have you ever met the Queen? No. Oh, but he has. And, because she has never met the Queen, right? She is the Queen, so she never met the Queen. But, she saw the Queen in a mirror, but she never met the Queen. And so I thought that was incredible. And, to me, it was just like, there must be so many incredible stories, and I probably will continue to research some of them, because to me, these sort of one-liners that she was capable of, in very high stress situations. Can you imagine how many things went wrong? Here she was, all formal and doing everything, and then something horrible happened. Why do I know that happens? I had it happen. All right. I was at one point the in charge of protocol for the visiting of the lieutenant governor here in Canada at an event. And, when I think how many things went wrong, I don't care how well prepped we were and how much time I spent studying the protocol to make sure I got it all right. But, it was just so many things go wrong. And in that one visit from the lieutenant governor, about 6 things went wrong. And all I kept going in my mind was, it won't be the first time or the last, all right? And so, I literally remember saying to the lieutenant governor on a couple of occasions, well, first of all, to his ADC, his aide-de-camp, I just said, could you get a message and let him know that the presentation he was about to receive roundabout now isn't going to happen? But it will happen later, or there's so many stories. Don't let me ruin it here, but it was an incredible, and that's the thing I always had to remember, was that, that the royals, when they do these sort of meet and greet things, the things that go wrong all the time, they have to be able to keep a really straight face and pretend it's not fazing them at all. And, I don't care how well prepared everybody is, things happen. It always happens. And so here's to Peter's point, right, that there are no coincidences. As the flag was lowered to half-mast over Windsor Castle, a rainbow appeared. And as they put up the notice on the gates of Buckingham Palace that she had passed, just as they were putting it up, a double rainbow in London. Isn't that amazing? So to me, that was just like, wow. And it is not by chance, right? I don't believe in coincidences. And, if any of you, amazing, Peter, that one, as they lowered the flag in Balmoral, and then as they were putting up the notice on the palace gates, one in Scotland, one in London. Amazing, absolutely amazing. So I don't know if any of you watched King Charles's speech this morning. It was quite something. I certainly wondered how he would approach it, right? Would he follow the Queen's stiff upper lip type presentation? The Queen had a way of delivering speeches that had no emotion, but it just was very well presented. And I, for one, wondered whether he would go that route or would he be more normal. And I was quite stunned how normal he actually decided to be. Quite stunned that he showed emotion, which, normally the royals, don't show emotion. And it's not, we know that we've seen emotion from William and Kate. And then, but, for Charles, who grew up doing nothing but waiting to be king. You're right. I mean, when you think about it, that was his role from the get-go. You are going to be the king. So everything he did was getting him ready for today, for yesterday. And yet, when he gave that speech, I thought it was a wonderful speech myself. I was stunned, absolutely stunned at the way he delivered that. And the fact that he spoke so lovingly about Harry and Meghan, I thought was excellent. That he needed to do that, because they are, Harry is his child. And then you think about, talking about Camilla, his wife of 17 years now. In other words, this was like, so many Brits and people around the world will never forgive him for what he did to Diana. But, there was that moment where he goes, Camilla's been around a long time now. And, I think what he was doing was setting up for her to be, more freely accepted by everybody. And 17 years marriage is, shows that she's in for the long haul. And so, to me, that was incredible. I think when you listen to the congregation sing God Save the King, wow. I was trying to imagine what that must be like, trying to sing it and not say the word queen or not say her. I am pretty certain that most of us would get it wrong. And yet, anybody that the camera was on, they got it right. They got it right. So, very difficult. And I'm watching the news anchors, all calling him Prince Charles and then saying, I'm sorry, King Charles. It's so difficult. And then, of course, there is the nightmare that you might not have thought about. Think on this one. If you think about it, how many organizations was Prince Charles patron to? All right, I don't know. Jody, if you've got a second, perhaps you can quickly find out how many, charities and things in the world was Prince Charles a patron of. It must be hundreds. And when you think about it, every one of those people are going to have to get his name changed on their letterhead. They're going to have to take him off, right? Because once he becomes king, he can't be patron of organizations anymore, right? Because his job is to be king, not to be patron of everything. Or rather that even if some of them he remains there, they've got to change from Prince Charles to King Charles. Now, it's not just him. If you think about it, the moment the Queen died, Charles became king, but everybody else in the royal lineage came up a notch. All right? So whatever titles, immediately William and Princess Catherine, they lost being Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Oh no, I lie. They immediately became prince and princesses of Cambridge and Cornwall, right? Because when Charles became king, he can no longer be the Prince of Cornwall. And then, of course, immediately, all right, thank you so much, Jody. Jody's saying the Prince Charities, supported by the Prince Charities Foundation, is based in the United Kingdom. And that alone comprises of 19 organizations, 18 of which were founded by him. Isn't that amazing? So, all those letterheads have got to change. All right. Can you imagine the nightmare of that? And now remember that Prince William and Catherine, all their patronages, they're going to have to change all their letterheads because they've now, it's now, William will be Prince of Wales very shortly. All right. Because that's always, that title passes down to the first, the heir to the throne. So he will become Prince of Wales pretty soon. And again, all his patronages are going to have to change. We now have all the other royals coming up a notch in terms of heir to the throne. So it is really quite something if you think about that nightmare. Anybody else got any comments that they wanted to share or anything that you noticed that you want to talk about? There is one I'm dying to talk about, but I'm wondering whether it's inappropriate. Probably is, but you know me, I'm probably going to do it. Yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. When I watched Prince Charles do his first speech to the nation, I couldn't help but think, whoever is his equerry. Now, an equerry is somebody that, is with that member of the royal family, and their job is to make sure that, he's got everything that he needs, all right, and is properly ready to do whatever. That's an equerry's role. He'll carry spare handkerchiefs, and he'll carry, spare copy of a speech or whatever. They're sort of like a secretary that travels with them. I don't know about you, but if you ever get to see more clips of that speech, I want you to have a look at his one side in the collar was perfectly starched, and on the other side looked like he had slept on it. And this side also the shirt looked crumpled. And I'm going, I've never seen that in a royal in my life. So did he fall asleep for a second, prior to, on the way down or something? Yes, Jenny was saying, I was surprised that King Charles stopped to shake hands with people. That was probably his most important act. Considering, he's obviously grieving and everything else, one of the most important things for him to do, Jeannie, was to do that. All right? He needed to touch the people. All right? He needed to touch the people. All right, so Kevin's asking, is Canada run by England? We still have we run our own country, but we still are represented. We're still in the Commonwealth. Let's put it that way. Jody's saying she wanted William to take over. I think that was a discussion. I wondered whether anybody was going to voice that. All right, and I don't know anybody else that would have liked to have seen William. I actually have to say that there was never any doubt in my mind that as long as he outlived his mother, that Charles would take over, and it was only right that he should, regardless of anything else. All right, that is his role, and that is tradition. But the question I had was, how long will he rule for? Will he just do it as a transition and then hand it to William, so that William gets it early enough that he can have real impact? That was my question. And so I've been quoted already as saying that I thought he'd take it for maybe 10 years, 15 tops. But when I heard his speech today, I heard him take on that mantle of as long as I shall live, which was the Queen's one. So maybe not. But again, we don't know how long he's going to be around for. All right. As we all know, life can change in a heartbeat. And so from that perspective, um, but Jody, I'm glad that you mentioned that. All right. And I'm also glad, that you mentioned the fact that you'll never forgive him for what happened to Diana. So, it's like, I think it's very real stuff that, it must be very difficult for him. And the fact that he has been so ingrained in these patronages that he's been part of, he was really hands-on so many things to do with the environment and climate change and things like that. I think it's really important. It must be so difficult that he's got to give them up when he built 18 of the 19 patronages. All right. And Jody's saying, she just wanted to speak her truth. I think it's very important that you do. And that's what I hoped people would do today, is speak their truth, because there is no right or wrong. It's just what you feel, right? And they're your feelings and you're entitled to them. And Kimmy agrees with Jody, all right? Right. And then Peter's saying that can't help but think of our beautiful Diana during this transition. Yeah, I am certain that humanity, right, around the world, had to think about Diana. And Kimmy is saying, how can he be married to the person he cheated with? That doesn't look good. Well, it may not be perfect. It may not be perfect. But, you've got to think about it, Kimmy, that you tell me an American president or three that hasn't had, well, maybe that's not true, but you know what I'm saying? We all have those stories, and the difference is, you've got to think about this. We didn't hear about what JFK got up to until after he passed. The difference is that we got to live that whole thing with Diana, and then with Fergie, and then with Prince Andrew in real time. And we got to do that because of social media. So you've got to think about the fact that we just don't know a lot of what went on. But as I said, I had JFK riding a white horse. He was the perfect white knight to me. But guess what? He wasn't. All right. And so you look at it and go, it's easy to judge King Charles and the Queen Consort Camilla, but think about it, they were the first victims, if you like, in some ways, of social media. And Camilla, how she has stood up to being hated by the British people and still take on the role. You got to think about that. That lady's got sphericals, round things. And now apparently is pretty well loved by a lot of people. Very, very charismatic, apparently. I've never met her, of course, but I understand she is very charismatic, very down to earth, very much loved by a lot of people now. So I would like to say, if you'll forgive me for this, but let ye without sin, cast that first stone. Because I think part of me actually felt very sorry for Charles, that he had to wait so long, all right, to be able to marry Camilla. Yeah, good point, Kimmy. Kimmy's saying President Clinton wasn't exactly a great example either, all right, in terms of fidelity, right? So you look at it and say, we only know about these things nowadays so quickly because of social media. And it started, I think a lot of it started round about the time of Charles and Diana, right? Because we got to see it in real time. It was the same thing. How many of you, and I hate to compare this, but how many of you sat mesmerized when the United States went into Iraq and we got to see it in real time? You know, I don't know about you, but that was the first time we saw a country going to war in real time. And to me, I was dead scared we were going to see a journalist get killed in real time. And it was, I don't know, it's very interesting how social media has changed so much of our perception of things. So I quite honestly have to say I wish him well. All right, the question that Kim has, which is very important, which is if he loved Camilla, then why did he marry Diana? He was not allowed to marry a divorced person. And Camilla was divorced. All right, so Peter is saying, my wife is obsessed with Diana and watches The Crown on TV, yelling at Charles. I want to tell you that some of you know, she died on the night of my birthday, my 50th birthday. And I have to tell you, it took me, I was the only person at my birthday party that didn't know what was going on. I didn't know that she had died, but they kept it from me because they didn't want to ruin my 50th birthday. I only found out on my way home that she had died. And it was absolutely horrific to me. And Jeannie is saying that he seemed to have taken advantage of a young, innocent girl. Yes, and that would have all been orchestrated as well, Jeannie. You've got to think about that. You know, he was being pushed. Um, he was being pushed to marry, right, at that time, and to marry a virgin, literally. And this is really, all the ins and outs of this are really horrible. And I'm certain you understand that. Yes, and Janie's saying, right, we now have that connection that Diana died on my birthday and the Queen died on Janie's birthday. So, you will never forget when the Queen died, right? Some of us will remember the date quite well, but you will definitely remember it. So now we have a new king. There will be 10 days of official mourning, and then England will get on with its new king. When I say get on, that things will then progress. Can you imagine that all the things, you got to think about this for a second, all the things that Prince Charles and the Queen Consort will have to give up? I don't know whether they will still hold on to Highgrove, their house, and all those gardens that they built, sustainable gardening. He didn't use pesticide. He was ahead of his time in terms of environmental issues. And I can remember laughing at some of the things he was up to before I understood what he was doing. And I'd like to publicly apologize for that, because I had a few names for him in those days, that he was being environmentally clever. I didn't see that the way I see it today. How about you? So he was ahead of his time. So although we don't necessarily see him as a a forward-thinking person. My view of him always was that he was very much, in the shape of the Queen, in terms of his, but he wasn't. He was way ahead of the Queen on a lot of things. And, you got to give him credit for that. Or not. It depends on how flexible you want to be. But the reality is he is now the king. And as the king, he deserves our support. And we don't have to like him. You don't have to like what he did, but he is the king. And I look at it and go, I feel in a very strong way, as much as I don't like the whole Diana thing, I feel quite sorry for him. Because I don't think he's going to like having to give up the things that he dedicated his whole life to, waiting to become king. And the same with the Queen Consort, whether she wanted it or not, she grew into that role. But there will still be people who jeer at her or who say unkind things about her. It's the way. Okay, so Kimmy's saying, I've seen online people in Canada want to know what happened to the children she took from families. What is a Queen Consort? That means, if you think about Victoria and Albert, Victoria was the Queen, but Albert was not king, right? Because he is married to the Queen. He was the Queen Consort, right? Now, you've got Charles is the king, and Camilla is now the Queen Consort. In other words, she is queen because she is married to the king. The reason for that wording, Kimmy, is actually quite important, in case you don't know. It means that on the death of Charles, she does not have the right to step in. All right, she is not the queen person. She is the Queen Consort. She has the title because she's married to the king. Right. And so, as I said, like Victoria and Albert, very important to remember that he was king consort. And he was never called anything other than prince. He was called, and that's why he retained Prince Albert. All right. So, will Camilla now be called Princess Camilla, the Queen Consort? I don't know. I'm pretty certain it'll have to be that. She will become princess and Queen Consort, meaning she's married to a king. There we go. I hope that makes sense. Any other questions like that I may or may not have the answer to? Feel free to do that. In the meantime, I'm going to just talk a couple of personal things while you come up with any other questions you might have. All right. Some of you know that I got scammed last week and had to cancel my credit card. And my bank said that they would rush a credit card to me and it should be with me by today. And I must admit, I rolled my eyes when I thought about that because, that's pretty fast turnaround considering. But I'd like to tell you that they did it. It came yesterday. And that was amazing. But living for a week without a credit card was also interesting. I'm really glad that I had PayPal. And I just want to say that it's a good idea to have something that you can turn to if you have to some reason cancel your credit card. Oh, interesting. Thank you, Jody. Jody is correcting me on a point. Thank you. In terms of Camilla, she's saying Queen Elizabeth decreed during the festivities marking her 7 decades on the throne that the Duchess of Cornwall should be known as Queen Consort as opposed to the Princess Consort. Yep. Yeah, so that's exactly she. So she will be called Queen, the King and Queen, when they get introduced. It'll be their Royal Highnesses, the King Charles and Queen Camilla, the Queen Consort Camilla. I don't know. It'll be interesting to hear how they word it, because I don't think it's happened like that for a while. So I just wondered, did you all understand my point about the fact that make sure you got something you can go to if you have to give up your credit card because of a scam? I was so grateful to be also be on PayPal, because I was able to do a number of things and pay it by PayPal rather than a credit card. And yeah, Kimmy's saying that she got the same text. I got it by email, and it was from UPS, and it's very well done, because the picture is of a UPS truck, and you don't think twice. It's like a UPS package is coming to you, and they need you to pay €2 for the customs fee. All made a lot of sense, and I got caught. But I actually managed pretty well. I went out shopping and used money. It's just like, I don't know. I know that sounds funny, but when did you last write a check, anybody? I thought about, maybe I can just write a check, and I'm going, when did I last write a check? It's been a long time. And do people still accept checks? Because we do everything with a credit card. I did have to order something online. And the funny thing was that I luckily was able to do it with PayPal rather than my credit card. Yeah, Jody's saying she hasn't written a check in years, and Kimmy as well. Jeannie's saying I write checks all the time. Yeah, but Jeannie, you're in Maine. That's a whole different country there. And I say that with a lot of love, because, I spent a lot of time in Maine, and I really kept saying it's a different country here. All right. Your values, your way of living, everything. It's very, very, it was very different. But, for a lot of us, we haven't written a check in the longest time. Do you know where to find your checkbook? That would be the next question. All right. So Jeannie's saying she writes checks for the groomer, the hairdresser, the house cleaner, right? You got a house cleaner? Aren't you the lucky person? Kimmy's asking if it's cold up here yet. I want to tell you something, Kimmy. I got up yesterday morning and had to go and find a tracksuit top to put on, because I was cold in my house. I was literally, I'm going, boy, that temperature is dropping fast at night. No doubt about it. So, did any of you do any spring cleaning this week? We've been talking about try and do one spring cleaning task every week. I was so proud of myself. Ta-da! I cleaned out the whole of that greenhouse window that you see. That's very difficult to do it the wrong way around. Hold on, let me try and do this. Up, along, and down. So I took all of that out, and I spritzed it all with Windex, and then I put disinfectant down around all the bottom of the windows. I stuffed all the window channels with paper towel, so that any moisture there will be sucked up. What I love about doing that, when you stuff paper towels in the window channels, is if it does start to get looking a bit gungy, you can just take it out and put more paper towel in, and you're not growing mold. I love that. So now then, I don't know if you can see, but yeah, I think you can. You see that? Right there is my pepper plant. Indoor. It's never been outside. It's growing in water. All right. On the other side, you can't see it as well, but there I've got two different tomato plants growing there. By the way, on the pepper side, I've got 3 different peppers. And one of them, as you can see, is already up to the top of the greenhouse window. So I'm hoping that it will go up and along. Talking of peppers, My greatest joy this week, without any doubt. And I'm pretty certain that I squealed loud enough for people to hear me. I was outside and I was watering my plants, and I came to the pepper plant, and I have got about 3 peppers starting to grow on my pepper plant. Now, you're going, so what, Sal? I've had them for, I've never had that happen. I've struggled to grow vegetables, right? And I struggled with my aero garden here. And then I struggled with, I could get them to this height and then they die. And now I've got one inside, never been outside, that's that tall and about to go along the window. It's so exciting. And then when I found that my plant outside had already got peppers growing. They're tiny, they're not this big, but they are peppers. Green peppers. And do you know that green peppers can turn into red peppers? I'm right in that, right? They change color, or yellow peppers or whatever. I'm not sure what sort of peppers I've got growing, but I have got peppers growing. So I'm really, really excited because it means I have learned how to do it. And those peppers outside and these inside all have been started with the seeds of peppers I got as vegetables. So I've learned the art. I am so excited. The question is, can I get peppers inside and tomatoes inside? Has my hydroponic gardening gone far enough? Yeah, that's right. Jody's saying mature peppers of many varieties start off as green and then gradually turn yellow and then red as they ripen. All right. So how many of you know I will probably be eating green peppers first? Because I'm going to have one. Now, the other thing. I have not bought tomatoes for 2 weeks. And the reason is every day I collect more tomatoes from my plant. Shalom, Eretz. Good to see you. So isn't that exciting? Now they're in here because I'm getting them to just ripen up in the greenhouse window. Now you're probably wondering, what did I do with the stuff I was dehydrating? You will remember, I've been, and these are going to go into a bag tonight, but I've been dehydrating all my petals to make potpourri for my friends for Christmas. And these are the first couple of leaves that have come off, petals that have come off my rose bush here. So, and also, if you remember, I am drying tomatoes and all sorts of things. Green onions, everything else, all being dried now, and I am doing that. So Peter's saying green thumb. I assure you I didn't start that way. As I said, it's taken me 2 years. And now I've got 1, 2, basil, 3. I've now got 3 basil plants inside. And I have become an absolute stickler for making sure I eat caprese salad at least once a week. Why? I've now got the tomatoes and the basil, and I grew them. The question that everybody sort of needs to know is there a difference in taste? Yes. For me, there definitely has been a difference in taste. Now my biggest problem with the tomatoes is I go out to water, and while I'm watering, I'm plucking and eating tomatoes, which is not quite what I meant to do. Yeah, interesting. Peter's saying not easy to grow indoors, especially. That's where I had to do a lot of learning. And so now I have learned, you can't see it, Peter, but I'm going to show you so that you can sort of focus in a little bit. All right. Here I have got 1, 2, 3 LED lights that are not on at the moment. Those lights will turn on a little bit later to make sure that I give those vegetables enough light as the days shorten. Not only has it got colder, but have you noticed that the days are getting shorter, like in a hurry? I know it's the same speed, but it feels like it's in a hurry to be. So that is the trick. The trick is to give them enough light. And my aero garden now has become my seed starter. All right, so Kimmy's saying, I found out that you can slice up tomatoes in the planter on top of soil, put them in a cubby hole or basement all winter, and then in the spring, after the first frost, you will be able to plant little plants. Yes, I'm actually doing that on an ongoing basis now, Kimmy, just so you know. Oh, I don't have it here. All right, so I have got tomato plants outside. I probably have got about 50 tomato plants outside. I won't be growing them all winter. I know I'm going to lose quite a few, but what I will do is bring them in before the frost. They will actually, I'm going to leave some out on the patio because I want to know, will they survive close to my my big patio doors where there's warmth? Can I keep them going during the winter? The other thing I'm going to do is to actually cover them with a plastic to see if I can create a greenhouse that will help protect them. But have it open, have the greenhouse, I've got like a plastic greenhouse, have the greenhouse door open so that the heat from the house can get to them. Or I will put in a light. I'm thinking about putting in a light bulb on a timer that will give them light and heat. You'll be amazed how much heat a regular light bulb gives out. So what I would like to be able to do is to have that light stay on all night to give it heat, and then they will get the daylight as well. Yeah, I want to tell you, all the tomatoes I've got, Kimmy, I've grown from tomatoes that have come in the house. I didn't buy plants or seeds. All right, I literally. And I think you've seen me do it. All right, all these seeds are, I don't know if you can see it down there. That's half a grape tomato, one of these. All right, and those are the seeds. Every month I start a new one. And they're growing indoors beautifully. So this was obviously the August batch, and I've got to start a September one now. And these are some of the July ones, I think, because they've got more leaves on them. So I will put these and plant them. Now, the other thing is I think you all have seen me, have my impatiens indoors, right? But guess what? I found out by just keeping my impatiens indoors, they start to grow roots. So then I planted one of them or two of them, and I've got others planted outside. These are taken from cuttings inside, but the one I'm really proud of is this one. All right. And that is, look at the roots on this. Isn't it amazing? I mean, seriously, how big is it? Those, there we go. So the root is that big. Do you think it likes being hydroponically grown? All right, so Jody is asking a very good technical question. All right, Jody, so here I've got just an applesauce container with some soil in it, potting soil. This is one of my store-bought tomatoes, and I'm using that one because I want to show you that even the store-bought ones work. Have some left over. Jody, take a sharp knife. Put them on top and squish them down. Okay, and that is all I do. And now I just keep watering it. So this is yours, Jody. And when I say it's yours, I'm going to put your name on it. All right. So we can watch how your tomatoes grow. Was that difficult? And if you look at it, these two are all the way up to there already. And this one here is up to here already. Now, somehow or other, I need to get that one at the back. But that's how I started them. Which is pretty surprising. But I was really amazed at the roots on this. Now, why is that important? It means if I keep growing them like this, all right, if I can, the next experiment, you know me, I'm always on experiments. Can I keep growing them all through the winter like this? All right, and this is the trailing stuff that I really like, and that roots very easily as well. Because if so, do you understand that come next spring, I won't be buying impatiens? I'll be planting my own. So what I'm doing now is starting to bring my impatiens in because it's getting pretty cold. And now I have got some of them that I just put in a glass like this. Part of me goes, can I continue to grow them in a glass? Probably, but you've got to keep changing the water a lot. What is amazing is, yeah, I think I can show you. What is amazing is how much water hydroponics take up. Let me show you. And I've already watered once this week. So I want to show you, I got a bottle here, how much water this plant has sucked up. Okay, so it has sucked up half a bottle of water just in a couple of days. And that's why I wanted those big jugs. All right. So what I'm going to be doing is building my own little impatient garden here. Now, I know you're all wondering about the rose bush. Are you going to try it with the roses too, Sal? What do you think? But I've managed to get them so I can grow the roots. Once they got roots, then they go into soil. And because it is cooler again, I can start growing lettuce again. This is one of the lettuces that came into the house. It was a romaine lettuce. And look at that. I only put it in water a couple of days ago, and it's already got that leaf growing. But this one will stay in the house, all right? Lettuce does not like hot. So the temperature in the house at the moment is about 66, and it's loving it. Very cool, huh? It's very exciting. To me, it's like, but was it easy to learn how to do it? Not necessarily. All right. As you know, the first year I lost everything. But this year I've eaten my own potatoes. Yeah, Peters is saying, I'm looking forward to cooking videos with your veggies. Well, tonight for dinner, I'm having baby potatoes. So I can now grow tomato. Well, hang on a second. I've now got growing tomatoes, lettuce, and another lettuce, the other small one, basil, parsley. I've done now, and it's growing. Happy with that. Peppers, basil, celery. Oh yeah. Remember the little bit of celery that I did? Yeah, I grew potatoes. I really did, Peters. So this celery has been growing now for at least 6 months, right? And all I do is I keep chopping bits off it, right? I use the leaves. But this literally, what I've got is some cloth that went up and over and down. So it's self-watering all the time. And in the bottom here, this was the bottom of a piece of celery that came into the house. Okay. And whenever I want to add a little bit of celery taste to something, I just chop a stalk and cut it up. So that we now know we've got. And then, of course, you all know I can literally take one group of, a bunch of green onion and make it last a whole season. So this is last season. This is the spring one, and it's still growing. And no, this is the spring one, and this is the one I brought into the house a couple of days ago. So Kimmy's saying, I want to get some snow on the mountain seeds. They are beautiful in the yard. Is that like Allison? No. Right, Jody, make a note so I can have a look at it after the broadcast. So what I'm trying to do is to, just keep growing stuff. Now, somebody asked a question that I didn't answer. Just want to see who it was that asked the question. Jeannie. Jeannie asked me the question about my health. Jeannie, I'm still waiting for the results. I thought I would have heard from my doctor's office by now because I thought they would probably want to talk to me today. And it may be that they've left a message, and I will have to check after the broadcast. But I'm due to get the results anytime now. And my sense is that the next step will probably be a biopsy. That is my guess of the next step. So we will see. It's a strange thing that I feel. In case any of you want to know, how do I feel? Not having heard, in a way, I'm happy not to have heard yet. All right, because as long as I don't hear, I don't have anything to worry about. This time tomorrow or this time next week, I might have a lot to worry about if I choose to. But I am so glad that we worked so hard on emotional intelligence, because I do not intend to worry about it. I intend to deal with whatever it is as best I can. And as I said in a previous broadcast, if what I've got is breast cancer, then, I've looked up the odds, and the odds of, like 94% of living for another 5 years and 84% for living for another 10. Now, I could fall into the lower, percentage, obviously, and not make it. But the truth is that, the odds are very high. I am so grateful to live in this day and age. The other thing is, worrying about it now is not going to change anything. Whatever it is or isn't is not going to change by my worrying myself sick. What is going to change it will be finding out what it is. I know that even if it's a mass in my breast at the moment, obviously, I know that there is a chance that it's benign, that it isn't cancer, that it's just a mass. And so for me, this is like, I'm very zen about it at the moment, much to a lot of people's surprise. And, I was talking to Yvonne, and she's saying, you're handling this so well. And I said, quite honestly, I just feel it is what it is. And there's no point in worrying about it. All right. What it will be is the next step. Either I'm going to be a very happy camper by this time next week. Probably that's not true, because I'm pretty sure they will still do a biopsy to find out whether it's benign or not. But as within a month, I'm going to know what's going on. So, and you're going to know basically as soon as I do. But I hope you can feel that this is genuine, all right? Does it go through my mind? Do I get a little bit scared every now and then? Of course, I'm a human being. But is it ruling my life? No. Quite honestly, it's not. And I am back on track. I had a couple of days, I don't mind telling you, that I was feeling a little scared. And what I found out is scared and the fridge go together. Do not go shopping when you're a little bit scared. All right, because I bought caramel corn and I bought Napoleons, I believe they're called in America. And I had quite a bit of sugar. But the good news is that I took my blood sugar yesterday, the day after I had quite a bit of caramel corn, and my blood sugar was still pretty good, considering it was a bit elevated, obviously, but it wasn't horrific. It was under 8. Wait a minute, what's 8 in American? It's under 140. So it was about 130 something, I think, which, is still within the parameters. So even binge eating bad stuff, I've managed to keep it under control. And I was really proud of that. And Jody, I don't know how to thank you for helping me learn how to eat differently. And to remind me, as you so often do, that you also have to live. And that you're also going to have days. You know what kept me going through those scared days that I had was, if you need caramel corn, it's a whole lot better than going back to smoking. Why? Popcorn has fiber. It's going to go through your body pretty quickly. And, sure, there is, caramel corn's got bad stuff on it. But here's the good news. I mixed it with regular popcorn. So as soon as I realized that I was starting to comfort eat, I went, okay, so now I'll mix the caramel corn with regular popcorn dry, nothing on it, no butter, no, just mix them up together. And it was like a potluck as to whether I got a tasty one or a plain one. And The other thing is that I continue to eat salads, and I continue to eat pretty well, pretty healthily on the other side. So, it's like, yeah, I had a bad couple of days comfort eating. Hey, last night I had mac and cheese. But my trick, all right, is I can, if I cook it, I can eat it. But when I cook, I only use 1/3 of a cup of pasta. So it's like, yeah, I went back for seconds, but I was allowed. It was only 1/3 of a cup of pasta. And so, what I've learned is how to eat differently and portion control. So what would have been one helping for me 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever, what would have been one helping is now 2 or even 3 helpings. Isn't that amazing? So I am pretty happy with that. So let me just catch up on the comments here. Yeah, interesting. Kimmy's saying that she's always said that if she got cancer in one breast, she'd let them both get taken off. Yeah, I may have to make that decision. I don't know yet. All right, Jody's confirming that 8 in my blood sugar level is 144 in American. Thank you. I thought it was about 135. So, yeah, Jody's saying you are allowed to be human, and we have those days. You've been doing a magnificent job. And she went on to say, you've changed your eating habits so drastically. It's remarkable. Yeah, to me, it's like my consumption of potatoes has definitely gone way down. It's a treat. But I am definitely going to have my own baby potatoes. And they're small, so I'll probably have, okay, I will probably have 4. Now, that's probably half a regular potato. I used to eat a full potato every night. I now buy 1 potato a week and anything I can dig out of my garden. When I say anything I can dig out of my garden. But if I've got stuff out of the garden, I don't order a potato that week. But do I still eat potato? You bet I do. And the other thing is, every night I have dessert. I think you guys know that. I have dessert every night. And I have things like cream and, all sorts of stuff. But every night I have dessert. And the other thing is, every night after dessert, I try to make sure I've got my steps in. And if I've got my steps in, then I can go back. And now my last meal of the day is cheese and crackers and grapes. And I know exactly what portion to put, all right? And it's important. It's the and this is really important because I don't start eating until late afternoon. And then I will make my 1 pita. You know that I bake my own bread. Hang on a second. Do I still have one? Yeah. Okay, so this is the pita I cooked yesterday, or half of one. Okay. And what I will do is I will load this up with cheese and lettuce and cucumber, and that is lunch. All right. And I will have that normally about 3 o'clock. Right. And if I've got them, I maybe will also have half a boiled egg. But I know I can eat that and I'll be fine. Why? I've been checking it. And then my evening is about this many green grapes, about that much cheese, and about 6 crackers. And a couple of prunes, dried prunes. They're good for me. That is my evening snack. And you know, I eat it while I'm busy pedaling away on Billy the Kid, Billy my bike. So, do I think it's important that I continue to do this? Absolutely. Now, if I end up with a diagnosis that I don't like, the biggest battle I will have is with my mind. Jody, I'm pretty certain you will agree with me on that, right? That the biggest battle is, well, in your case, your biggest battle is your pain. And that scares me. That's the one thing that scares me, I have to say. Jody's saying, I'm inspired by your quest for balance. It has changed my life in meaningful ways. My very way of thinking and approaching problems has turned around. Yep. You know, and you continue to inspire us, Jody. You're dealing with stuff I wouldn't want to be dealing with. But the main thing is, I know how important it is to keep being creative, keep nurturing. I love that you're doing crochet again, even though you are in pain with your hands with arthritis. All right. The fact that you are doing something creative is very important. It's very zen. I don't know how your blood pressure is doing. The important thing is to check your resting heart rate. And the reason I say that is I just want to show you. Okay, my average resting heart rate is 64. Look how it's come down. And it was good before, but it's come really down. This is with all the stress of wondering whether I've got breast cancer or not. All right, this is from August. Now, you know what was going on. I was still battling the problem here in the community. But can you see now that she's backed off? All right, that my resting heart rate is way down. So what I heard, Jody, I was doing some research on it yesterday. What I heard was, you know, your resting heart rate is a really good indicator because it will go up if you've got an infection. It will go up if you've got, you know, so to be able to keep your resting heart rate under control basically means you're in pretty good health. And what I like about having my watch is I can take it up a step. Any minute now, I will remember how to do that. No, that's not it. Wait a minute. I'm going to find it any minute now. Pretty sure. It is there. No, back. Here we got one. All right. So I don't know if you can see this bit. Not that bit. Okay. Can you see that area on the side there? My resting heart rate is way up here in the green. That means for my age, all right, it says your estimate of 29 to 33 resting heart rate score, excellent for a woman of your age. Okay, which means I am doing enough exercise and I am doing enough relaxation that it can be at that level. And considering that I'm waiting to hear if I've got cancer or not, and I kept it under control this week, that fills me full of I managed to keep it under control. All right. I just know that what I do, right? It's not what you hear or what you know that does the damage. It's what you do with that information, right? So if I worry myself sick, literally, then I will be more sick. But if I go, hey, it is what it is, and I need to do whatever I need to do, but just keep on living, right? Remember my discussion with Jody. What was it, 6 years ago, Jody? Do you want to die? Because you're talking like you do. All right. I always remember that conversation where you go, is that what you want? Do you want to die? Because you're really, when I listen to you, that's what you're doing. You're busy dying. You're not living. And look at her. yeah. And she's got such bad arthritis, she can hardly do anything with her hands. But she's still crocheting. Why? Because she knows that the more you use these things, the more use you're going to have out of them. Yeah, Jody's saying, I'll never forget it. It was a turning point in my life. Basically what I said to her is, hey, if you want to die, if that's what your plan is, then I hold your hand through that. But if you want to live, then I can help you do that as well. Right? And so we've changed a lot of Jody's thinking over the years. She was turning herself into a pretzel for everybody, all sorts of things. Right. And Kimmy's saying, my resting heart rate is 67 right now. It used to be too low before the pacemaker. Right. And you know something, Kimmy? One of my neighbors, her heart rate was so low, she was passing out. And she's just had a pacemaker put in, and hopefully she will be doing much better soon. I'm looking forward to seeing her get some color back. Have you got color back in your face? Because she was white as a ghost. So I hope she's good. But it was amazing. It took them a long time to realize what was going on, but once they did. All right, any more questions before I go? And I look at it and go, some of us will have lived a lifetime only knowing Queen Elizabeth. I was born well, I remember her coronation. I'm afraid I'm that old. I remember watching her coronation, and then some. I was in England already, so I was already school-going age, I think, when she was crowned in 1953. I believe the coronation was 52 or 53. I think it was 53. So I want to tell you something. I don't think that we can do anything but know that heaven is a better place. And there is part of me that goes, I am so happy that she can relax now in heaven. All right. Or will she be bringing, her own brand of composure and grace to the to the heavens? I don't know. Jody's confirming it was June the 2nd, 53. Oh, interesting. Kimmy's saying, I'm mad because they put me on cholesterol medication for prevention and I gained 10 pounds. Look at me, Kimmy. That's what put the weight on me. And I'm told I will be on that medication for the rest of my life. Yeah, and it's difficult to get it to drop. Yes, very difficult. And as you know, I've still lost 10 pounds this year, but I lost nearly 20, and then I put some back on again. But, it's a yo-yo, and I just need to, and the caramel corn and the Napoleons did not help this week. So I need to do a week of very different, lots of water and lots of different eating. Yes, Jody's up 15 because of lymphedema. So you look at it and go, there's a reason why they say getting old isn't for the weak of heart, right? You need to be pretty tough to grow old. Why? There's so many things that hit you that you never had to deal with before. And then the diet. And I didn't do a diet, as you know. All right. I decided on a lifestyle change. And then I heard about Anderson Cooper and what he does. And that made a lot of sense to me. And for those of you who might be watching this for the first time, what Anderson Cooper said is he knows exactly what he can eat every day, and be healthy. That allows him to go out and have dinner, and eat whatever he wants to a couple of times a week. That's a clever philosophy. And I like that. It said, and then I heard as well, losing weight, it happens in the kitchen, not out walking, not out jogging. That's building muscle and cardio stuff. Losing weight happens in the kitchen. So if you're on a medication that puts on weight, as you and I both are, Kimmy, if I want to lose weight, I'm going to have to change what I put into my mouth. No doubt about it. And what I found out is I've just about got it down now where I know what keeps me from putting more weight on. And now I've lost 10 pounds, right? So a couple more adjustments or a little bit more discipline for a couple of weeks, and I can probably get back to where I was and then work again. Yes, Jodie's quote, losing weight is in the kitchen, fitness is in the gym. So if you can remember that, it helps. All right, so Peter is saying, thank you for keeping us company while we prep for our catering party tonight. Insightful and sensitive. So God bless, no matter, everything will be okay. It is what it is, Peter, and I wish you a wonderful evening. What are you serving tonight? I used to have a friend that was a caterer, and the tricks that you guys get up to just amaze me. All right. I learned all sorts of things about how you could steam vegetables in the dishwasher, and it was just like, really? What else was it? Something else like the dishwasher was very useful. Hungarian food. Wow, that sounds like such fun. I'll look forward to hearing how it went. I hope you'll be around for another broadcast. So I wish you all a wonderful evening of prepping and enjoying it. Yeah, I hope your guests, your client, whatever, enjoys your Hungarian food. And to the rest of you, thank you for being here. Oh, Peter's saying, oh, don't tell all the secrets. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, all right. I probably still will. All right, so this is Dear Mama Sal. What are we going to be doing tonight? We're going to be talking about soup. For those of you who watch the meal prep type presentations on Friday evening, I'm going to be talking about how I use up food, leftovers and things, and how I have ongoing, I have ongoing dough going on all the time, but I also have ongoing soup going. And so I wanted to show you how I do that, because it's a simple thing that I'm pretty certain, as we go into fall, you'll be wanting to have more soups and things. And I would recommend it, great budget thing. So we'll talk a lot about that. This is Dear Mama Sal saying, God bless the king. Very difficult. And I really like the idea that Her Majesty and Prince Philip are together again. That somehow or other really touched my heart. And that I will be very interested to see what the next decade brings. And I intend to be around to watch it. So my love to you all. And let's keep holding each other's hands through the good times and the difficult times, through the weddings and the funerals. And I am so happy that the Queen can actually relax and know she doesn't have any more duty to fulfill. This is Dear Mama Sal saying bye-bye for now. Thanks for your help, Jody and Jeannie.